Hey, this is Simeon from PraiseTracks.com. And our five senses, our taste, touch, sight, smell, and sound, those are what keeps us connected to the world around us. And if you're like me, sometimes we take those senses for granted. And so we're going to focus on the sense of sound. And that means we are going to have to take a journey back to 1938 when it is October 30th, 1938, and people all across the United States are tuned into their radios just like every other night when they hear an extraordinary broadcast and one that will change the course of media and, it changes it for the rest of our modern history. And the power of it is the fact of the theater of our minds, not even with visuals, you were just listening. And so how sound affects the pictures that we paint into our minds and how that sound links us to filling in the gaps that we can't necessarily see. So what does a Martian invasion sound like? Well, Sample Logic has given us a powerful tool called Morphestra 2, and it is just a sound designer's dream. It has over 25 gigabytes of sound content, and we're going to just dive right into that, and we're going to see how powerful sound has become in creating media. Okay, so here we are. We're looking at Morphestra 2 inside of Contact 6. That's what I'm currently running. But you can also use the free Contact player, which is great if you don't have the full version of Contact. So let's just take a quick look at the interface of Morphestra 2. It comes as a single NKI instrument, which makes everything just so accessible and right there. You don't have to just continually load in and out patches and everything. Everything is just right here for you to just go for it. So I think that Morphestra 2 was one of the first Contact instruments that utilized a multi-core sound engine, so a multi-sound core engine. And here you have 4 different sound cores, and each sound core can have its own set of 2 sound sources. And you can browse the sound sources here, the sound source 1, and it will tell you if it's already active, if a sound source is already active. You have categories of atmospheres, instrumentals, loops, percussives, and waveforms that you can select for each sound source, and up to 2 per sound core. So it just gives you just a huge amount of flexibility here. And then for each sound core, you have its own set of effects, envelopes, convolution engine. You have control over pitch and filters. You also have this animation morphing engine that you can morph between 2 different sound sources. And as we play through the patches, you're going to see a lot of things happening in this interface. So let's just go ahead and play through some of these. So we're going to click in the center here, and this will take us to our browser. And let's go to one-note combos. And there's not enough time to run through all of these today, but I tell you, you have so many different possibilities. It just sometimes it can get overwhelming because there is so much creativity packed into this instrument. So let's just pull up a few of the one-note combos. Android Soldiers. We'll just start at the top here. And we're just going to experience some of these sounds together. So you can already see how these sound cores are set up with different modulations and that type of thing. So here we go. So that's just a wild percussive loop here. Now you can see these other sound cores how they're working. Okay, so now let's take a look at one of the coolest features, I think, in Sample Logic's libraries is the XY mixer. So we can just actually isolate the different parts of what is making up this patch. So this is Sound Core 1. Now let's sweep over here and hear what Sound Core 2 is doing. And now let's go to 3. And I'm just holding this one note here. So each of the sound cores contributes something different to the overall patch. So let's put the XY mixer here in the middle, and you can hear an equal combination of every patch in the sound, every part of the sound cores. Here we go. So every sound core contributes something totally different, and when you mix them all together, it just creates just an amazing sound. And you can just play around with the keyboard. Yeah. So already the sounds are just pulling you right in. So let's go on to another one-note combo, Arise My Child. Let's take a listen to that. Again, you have 8 sound sources divided into 4 sound cores. So here we go. Yeah, so with these, they're so complex that you really want to stick to maybe 1 or 2 notes, because too much would cause it to get muddy. But you can see it's like a completed arrangement already. Now I'm going to go down so you can hear what's going on down low. Now watch what happens when we turn on the animation. And you can record your own automation with the XY. So here we go. So this is going to just create a pattern, or execute a pattern, that's going to blend those 4 sound cores together. And then you can re-trigger it. So it just gives you something that evolves over time, that just grows, and that is dynamic. It just doesn't stay still. It moves. When I was looking into this, trying to understand about sound design and how Morphestra 2 sort of fits into this concept of sound design and the power of sound and just the spoken word. So what was so amazing about War of the Worlds was that they did not have racks of synthesizers. They didn't have the computer technology. But what they did have was such creativity. And so they took that and harnessed that and created something powerful that, frankly, we were not expecting, because it became so real. They were able to just make and convince that something was really going on with these Martians coming and invading our planet. And they did it with the creativity, the spoken word, and with the sounds that they had. They had the orchestra there in the studio, and they were playing these interludes, and then they would break in with these news flashes and on-site live reports. And they had, the only thing that they had for sound effects basically were the organ, some of the early theater type organs and that type of thing, and physical and practical sound effects. And so I just want to show you a couple of demonstrations about the power of what you can do with these sounds. And so let's take another look. And I've loaded up a couple of clips here. And the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to listen to Orson Welles' Monologue. And I've pulled up one of the. Let's see here. So we've got the instrumentals, and I'm going to pull up Starting Over. And I spent a little bit of time kind of going through these patches here, and we're just going to have an amazing time with this. So let's listen to the opening monologue, just a part of this with Orson Welles.
Orson Welles. We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, and yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water.
Okay. Now, let's pull up Morphestra 2 And let's listen to that same piece again. But I'm just going to just kind of improvise something over this. And here we go.
Orson Welles. We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf,
wow. So you could just hear, it just almost makes it just jump right out of those speakers or out of the headphones. It just pulls you right in. Man, I'm going to show you one more really interesting demonstration of this. So we're going to go down to another section. And if you've not listened to the entire presentation of War of the Worlds, I tell you, it's just really fascinating. It's really fascinating. Okay, so here we go. And I'm going to just play this section and just by itself, and then we're going to have some more fun with this. Here we go.
The next voice you hear will be that of Professor Pearson, brought to you by direct wire. Professor Pearson.
Of the creatures in the rocket cylinder at Grover's Mill, I can give you no authoritative information, either as to their nature, their origin, or their purposes here on Earth. Of their destructive instrument, I might venture some conjectural explanation. For want of a better term, I shall refer to the mysterious weapon as a heat ray.
Okay, so now let's take a listen to to Morphestra 2. And so we're going to pull up an atmosphere, one of the atmosphere sounds. Let's see where we have it here. Creatures of the Mist. So you ready? Here we go.
The next voice you hear will be that of Professor Pearson, brought to you by direct wire. Professor Pearson.
Of the creatures in the rocket cylinder at Grover's Mill, I can give you no authoritative information, either as to their nature, their origin, or their purposes here on Earth. Of their destructive instrument, I might venture some conjectural explanation. For want of a better term, I shall refer to the mysterious weapon as a heat ray. All too evident that these creatures have scientific knowledge far in advance of our own. It's my guess that in some way they are able to generate an intense heat in a chamber of practically absolute non-conductivity. This intense heat they project in a parallel beam against any object they choose by means of a polished parabolic mirror of unknown composition. Much as the mirror of a lighthouse projects a beam of light. That is my conjecture of the origin of the heat ray.
Thank you, Professor Pearson. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a bulletin.
Yeah. I mean, when I first was messing around with that, it was just so incredibly amazing to hear how the difference is, how it just pulls you right in. It pulls you right in to what you're listening to. Oh man! Wow, what a ride! Again, if it's your first time here, go ahead and subscribe and click on those notifications because you don't want to miss what's coming up next. And check out the links in the description below to learn more about Sample Logic and Morphestra 2, this powerful sound design library. It's been amazing to share with you today. So until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.